imagine a universe in which every conscious being suffers as much as it possibly can for as long as it can. I call this the worst possible misery for everyone. That's bad. If you don't think that's bad, or you think something might be worse, or you think that might be good in the end, I don't know what you're talking about. and what's more, I suspect you don't know what you're talking about either. So, the only thing you need to concede, from my point of view, philosophically, is that the worst possible misery for everyone is bad, if the word bad means anything. And avoiding it is certainly good. And every other possibility in this universe of conscious experience is better than the worst possible misery for everyone. And what we can value, what we can intelligently value in that space is well-being, the well-being of conscious creatures. Given that the worst possibility for everyone is on one end of the continuum, and all other possibilities are there to be explored. Slide. Actually, it has to stay attached to the computer and never leave. And it's long been obvious that we have needed a universal framework for thinking about right and wrong good people. It's the immediate aftermath of World War II. The United Nations tried to put forward did in fact put forward a Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Slide. And yet the American Anthropological Association came forward and said this is a fool's errand. You can't do this. It's intellectually illegitimate because any conception of human rights is merely one culture's provincial notion of value. And you simply can't voice that onto the rest of the species. Now, please notice, this was the best our social scientists could do with the crematory of Auschwitz still smoking. This is in 1947. Slide. And so what I'm arguing to you is that values reduce to facts. They reduce facts about the well-being of conscious creatures. And we have some very serviceable intuitions, I think, here. The moment we admit that we're in fact talking about experience when we're talking about right and wrong and evil. One is that we care more about the experience of our fellow primates than we do about insects, because we think there's more to their experience. We think there's more well-being they can be deprived of and more misery they can suffer. And I think the first thing to notice is that's actually a factual claim. That is either true or false. I mean, it's possible we are completely wrong about the inner lives of insects. There's no reason to think that we are, but if we are wrong about the way in which subjective experience scales with neurological complexity, well then we could be wrong about insects, and we would have to revise our sense of moral obligation. And we don't care about rocks, because we don't think there's anything we can do to make rocks suffer. And that's seems to me to be quite a legitimate intuition. And now there are ways for us to be misled. We care more about things that have faces we can recognize, right, or facial expressions. So, lobsters and fish don't make out very well in that calculation. We like cute animals versus ugly ones, and the fluffy tail of a squirrel seems to give it a different stature than the smooth tail of a rat, say. That these differences are probably not ethically justified. But again, the ethical concern has to scale, in some sense, with our sense of the experience that is possible there. Slide. And so, too, if your notion of morality is anchored to religion, if you think that the cash value of living a good life is in the afterlife, either in an eternity spent with God or an eternity suffering in hell, you still are concerned about consciousness and its possible changes. You just happen to think the most important changes occur after death. Now again, this is a factual claim, for which there's precious little evidence. And this is a claim, obviously, about which science is not neutral. But again, please notice, we're still talking about consciousness and its possible changes. But that is what there is to care about. Slide. Now, many people are worried that the notion of well-being, the well-being of conscious creatures as the anchor for value, is somehow so ill-defined and so difficult to define that it's vacuous. By analogy, I want you to consider the notion of physical health. Because health is also difficult to define. We have a truly open-ended definition of health. Health, when this statue was carved, entailed most people dying around 25 or 30. That was the life expectancy for a person. Now it's around 80 in the developed world. Now, if we live to see radical breakthroughs in biological science, such that one day we should be able to regrow missing limbs, well then that will be part of our notion of just ordinary health. The fact that the concept of health is elastic and truly open to change doesn't make it vacuous. We can still have the science of medicine, and the distinction between a living person and a dead one is absolutely clear. Now, no one, when I say that morality and questions of right, wrong, and good and evil relate to the well-being of conscious creatures, what I get is that the challenge I often get is, well, who's to say we should care about well-being? I even get that in response to the worst possible misery for everyone argument. Who's to say we should avoid the worst possible misery for everyone? Now, we don't get this on the subject of health. No one tries to undermine the philosophical underpinnings of medicine with doubts like, well, who's to say that living a long life free of disease and chronic pain is healthy? Where did you come up with that idea?